Got me in frame?
Yeah.
All right. Still.
All right. What did you study in college, and was this the kind of job you expected to get whenever you graduated college?
I was a English with creative writing major at Emory University. The original plan was to be a sports journalist.
Okay.
I graduated in 2007, around the same time as the newspaper industry kind of folded.
Yeah.
So, actually, media relations was an interesting way for me to kind of get on the other side of journalism.
All right.
That industry.
Let's see. How did you find your way into a communications position for like an athletic department for university?
About a year after school got done, I had worked some other jobs, maintenance on guys' websites and things like that, technical things. And I realized I wanted something more challenging. So I sat down, I wrote an email out to, I was in Atlanta at the time. I wrote an email out to the Atlanta Braves, Falcons, UGA, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Kennesaw,
All of them.
anybody that had a team.
Yeah.
And Georgia State was the one that got in contact with me and said, you know, if you want to come help out, do game day operations, that kind of thing, then they could work with me.
Yeah.
So I started and did that for a couple of months, and then I think it was about spring, after the basketball season had ended, they talked about one of the graduate assistants was going to move on, if I'd be interested in that. So I signed up for that, did a 2-year master's degree. They paid for my classes and gave me a little stipend. And then after 2 years of that, kind of kicked around a few different ideas for some full-time jobs, went on some interviews and that. And actually, my boss down at Georgia State is good friends with Annabelle Myers here.
Okay.
And so it's kind of funny because, like, you work hard, and, like, there were a couple of other ones I could have taken.
Yeah.
Alaska Fairbanks offered me a job,
Oh, wow.
so I could have lived up there
That's
for
a
a
long way
year.
away.
Army was talking to me going up to West Point, but at the end of the day, connections really count.
Yeah.
As crummy as that is to say, sometimes it's just important to make a connection with somebody and get hooked up at the end of the day. And so I came to NC State 2008, 2009, and now this is my 5th year here, 4th year with baseball.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any bigger aspirations or goals you want to get with your career?
Sure. I'd like to have my own department someday. I think there's a lot of room to grow in sports information, media relations especially. I think I have the benefit of coming into this business around the time newspapers are kind of moving out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with that, but I kind of see it as an opportunity. I think Twitter being invented right at the same time was key, because that's really become the optimal news delivery service for us. And we've kind of turned into our own little TV channel / newspaper, you know, daily publication. I think there's a lot of different interesting ways you can take that, and especially now you've got live streaming apps and those kind of things bubbling up. I think that'll kind of be the future of our job, is being the university athletic department's own little TV station that just feeds people stuff. And so I guess to make that happen, I'd have to run my own department someday. Aspirations beyond that, who knows? You know, these athletic directors and stuff come from somewhere, so that's always a possibility. I kind of got an open mind about the future.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. Do you work? Who do you primarily work with? Is it just the baseball team that you work with most, or
baseball and men's soccer?
Men's soccer.
Are my
Okay.
two priorities.
Did you get to choose the teams you work with, or are they kind of assigned to you?
It's kind of maybe like a draft process.
Okay.
You know, it's not like we sit down and do it all in one day, but it's certainly. I came here and I started out with rifle, gymnastics, and women's tennis. Those are kind of given to me. I found reasons to like all three of them, and then transitioned to men's soccer. Picked up women's golf, dropped women's tennis and rifle. Picked up men's soccer. Kind of just, you know, it moves around a little bit. The baseball one was kind of a big break, because that's the third. It kind of goes, everybody wants to do football.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do basketball. Everybody really wants to do baseball and softball and stuff like that. But, you know, that's kind of how the totem pole works. And so I was here a year and a half, and that opening came up, and I just told everybody I could that I wanted to get in that job.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a little young to do that, but it worked out great. It's hard work. It's a lot of games and stuff like that, but it's good to get you prepared to roll with the punches for the rest of your career.
What kinds of things do you do as a member of the communications department?
On game days, we set up with the printed materials for the press, TV, broadcasting folks. Right now I'm coordinating. We've got a photographer coming in that may not come in because it's raining right now, so we're working with the marketing department on printing the trading cards that we give away. It's kind of a lot of managing several different arms of the department at one time. Let's see, what else we got? On the off days, I mean, last night I was staying up late getting the notes prepared, updating all the stats and things like that. We have meetings during the week where we try to have, especially with our social media platforms, we try to plan it out 2-3 weeks in advance, so that way everybody's firing on all cylinders. We have stuff coming from the athletics account, the marketing accounts, the ticketing accounts, and then the teams themselves. So it's good to get that all coordinated, and that takes a lot of time. Pretty much, you just get an email, and it's somebody's problem, and our job is to fix those problems. So you really have to hang loose.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, what do you? I guess kind of already answered. What do you typically do on game days? Is there anything that you do just on game days that you normally don't have to deal with?
When I come in, I usually get in about this time, 3 hours ahead of time. The visiting SID will come in probably 2.5 whenever the team gets here. So you kind of get him settled, help the radio get hooked up, because every park's got a different setup with Ethernet and phone lines. There's a lot of different technical things that we always have to work it out, because it's like getting on the internet. It never really quite works the first time. That's usually the first thing. Then I'll head down, get the lineup from coach, start typing that stuff in. The key is to just keep everything moving forward towards game time, and you got to build in a little time for the copier might jam, or coach might be taking too long with the lineup that day, or on a day like today we kind of have to be vigilant about whether we're going to have a rain delay or not. Announce that, get that out as quickly as possible up on the website. Then once the game starts, I mean, I'm working right up until the buzzer. I hang out in the dugout for a long time right before the game, so I can kind of take pictures and stuff, get people engaged. And then I'll come running back in here about when the national anthem's wrapping up, and that's when it's time to sit down and do the Twitter play-by-play for the game. I've hired my predecessor. I've kept him on staff as the official scorer, so he's helpful as kind of a second set of eyes. He's been through this before, and he's kind of guided me. It's good to have him here. We got a team of students that we set up on scoreboard. We've got a girl that's running our Instagram account this year, and kind of using that as the marketing arm of whereas Twitter is delivering the news service about the team. The Instagram is your marketing angle. See which contests we're running, and guys up on the dugout, out in the field doing the dizzy bat race, pictures of the fans, see how big the crowd is. So I kind of let her have some autonomy on that, and she's coming up with some new stuff. I'm interested to see how that goes. Then, game gets done. I've got a kid that I've let write the last couple of game stories. I'm trying to get him up on that. And so I'll sit with him and go through his writing, work with him to get a little better. He's learning how to post everything to the website. There's a lot of different jobs like that, and I'm really doing my best this year to teach those jobs to other people, get the process moving a little smoother, and that allows us just to jam more stuff in there. It frees me up for some more jobs. And then at the end of the night, once everybody's cleared out, you fire everything off to the newspapers, get everything on the website, get stuff ready for the next day. And this is baseball, there's not a lot of let up, so a lot of times you're kind of leaving the place and you're thinking, I'll be back in 12 hours. So
Um, are there any unique experiences this job has allowed you to have since you've been here at NC State?
Oh yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps to mind is just having trained Carlos come through those last 3 years,
Yeah.
being up close to those guys and working with them and watching them kind of learn how to handle the media and handle the attention and things like that. Luckily, I've had a bunch of guys that have been dreams to work with and never really had any problems. And they understand that I'm kind of learning at the same rate as them. The travel is obviously a double-edged sword. It's sometimes kind of a drag, but then you get there, and in the last 2 weeks we've been to Boston, we've been to Miami, and you got time to walk around and explore. That's a neat experience. But I just think sort of going to the College World Series with those guys, you get in certain situations where it's just you and the coach or you and a couple players, and you think about how the fans are sitting around and they're fired up, and like tonight when we play that hoop game, I'll be glued to some TV, getting rowdy and all that, and you think, man, it would be sweet to just, be able to post up and watch this stuff as a fan and just do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
But then the other half the time, you'll get in some bind, like when we switched starters and had Carlos go on short rest in the College World Series 2 years ago. And me and Coach Cavan were the only two people on the planet that knew that. And he was handing me a lineup, and I had to go to ESPN and the writers and give them all the spiel and assure them that it wouldn't hurt his arm and not mess up his draft stock. And that's the kind of overwhelming moment where you're standing there at the door and you're just like, oh God, I can't believe I'm about to do this. Please don't screw this up. And those are the kind of things that, when you're thinking about how nice it would be just to camp out and watch a football game, sometimes it's a lot more fun to be behind the closed door, and you get stuff like that just you can't buy that experience.
What kinds of things did you do in college to better prepare yourself for this career, these opportunities?
I played 2 years of JUCO basketball at Oxford College of Emory University. So that, I understand, stat keeping, and I understand what the players want out of, attention-wise. The difference between good attention and bad attention, like, it's kind of a hassle to sit here and, do interviews and have to get to practice early and things like that, or stay late. But on the flip side of that, you want there to be photographers at the game. You want there to be video cameras at the game. You want somebody to keep a record of what you're doing, what you're putting in. And that's what I think about when I help these guys out, or the soccer guys. We'll have a photographer, and I make sure to just put all the pictures on Facebook available to the public so it doesn't do any violations, but make sure that those guys get what they deserve out of the experience, things like that. After I played 2 years of hoops and then hung it up after that, in the last 2 years I worked in Emory Sports Information Department. I was actually more in the marketing wing because that's all they had open, but it's just a little two-man department, so they needed all the help they could get. So that kind of got my feet wet before the chips were down with Georgia State, when I really had to get to work.
Did you do any internships or like co-ops during your college career?
I one summer worked in Vanderbilt's Sports Information Department when I was back home. I believe that was between my sophomore and junior year. The last 2 years at Emory, every internship helps, and it's such a shame that people get away with unpaid internships these days. I suffered through one of those, but that was the end of that. I think that in a lot of ways, any steady job is going to help, because you realize, like, there's just no getting out of it. You got to get out, you got to grind through it, and you got to give effort, things like that. So part of me says, internship, go for it, do the experience and stuff, but they got to pay you, like, do something that pays the bills, and then in your free time you can go hard for whatever it is that you're after. But certainly building towards one goal is ideal, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that and be able to pay the bills while doing that. But a lot of times, in my experience, the 20s are just a hard decade of life, and give it everything you got, burn it on both ends for a couple years until you get in a spot that feels comfortable.
All right, let's see. What's your favorite thing about this job?
Favorite thing about the job? I'd say having a rooting interest, being able to feel like you feel the wins and losses still. Everybody always tries to act like the SIDs and the support staff that we're all divorced from this, but it's not true because everything is together. You know, even the grounds crew is pulling for us to win because if we're winning, we get on TV more, which means the fabulous mow patterns that they put in the outfield get on TV in front of big cameras. Everybody's got something to gain by the team doing well, and I mean, it's tough to ride the roller coaster and like actually care when you lose, but you can't really enjoy the wins unless it hurts you when you lose. And so I think that's kind of my favorite thing is just being invested and having a goal-based sort of thing like that to keep up with.
Let's see. And what would be your least favorite thing about this job?
Least favorite thing is probably when the cameras are off. It's a lot of grimy sitting in front of computers, sitting with laptops on your lap, just getting work done when you can on buses and things like that. We were sitting up at BC last week in this like trailer that they'd set up because it was so cold for a press box, and the NC State hoop game against Villanova had tipped off, and we're playing a 15-inning game, and there's nobody in the stands. And I mean, I looked at the radio guy and said, you know, we don't get paid to go to the games that everybody wants to go to. You know, we get paid to sit here through 15 innings and battle this. And he was calling the game on an iPhone, and he hung in there and did it. Like, and you know, that's a worst part of the job, but it's actually kind of neat once you get a little ways down the road. You realize you can overcome some stuff. But yeah, I'd say when you're sitting around at 2 a.m. with a laptop on your lap and one sitting on the table, and nobody knows what you're doing, that's the worst part, probably.
Let's see. I guess this will be the last one, but if you don't mind me asking, what's the pay like for this kind of position?
You got to kind of scratch for whatever. I liken it to, like, coaching. You get in anywhere that'll take you, and you take whatever they'll give you. The first job I made $600 a month. I was taking master's classes for free, but I had a $600 a month stipend, and my share of the rent was $500. So I had $100 to get me through the month. I was on food stamps, and you know, we got through it for 2 years, and then you know, the next one, those internships will pay like 20 to 30 if you're lucky, and that doesn't really cut it either. And then your full-time job starting out is going to be like 35, and then if you can really hassle them about it, then some people maybe. I've had good success asking for raises. I've been able to go to people because I've had freedom and not really attached to anything. I can tell somebody, you know, I need this much money, or I gotta walk, I gotta go somewhere else. And I've been lucky to have bosses that have responded to that, and they've given me enough to make it. But, you know, it'd be nice to have more. The upshot is, just like in coaching, you make nothing for a really long time, and then you make a lot of money really quickly. And that can burn up fast. Like, the higher you get up there, the shorter the leash is, and you can make $150,000 for 3 years real quick and then get fired. But you know what? Like, that's pretty good if you can get it. So I think of it the same way. I think that the people at the Power 6 schools that are running these departments, they're making really good money. And then the mid-major people, a little less, but still really good. And then everybody that's down the flow chart in each office is, you know, scraping by a little bit. That's just how it goes. And you know, wish it was different. Wish there were more people walking around making 75 or something nice like that. But it's that's how it goes.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it, Daniel. It was fun. Now I'm gonna head back and get my stuff off the crate.